Okay, so we were talking about this yesterday on Twitter Spaces, and so I thought it was a really interesting conversation. My mutual asked, "Can you be an icon 5 years in?" And my answer to this is no, and I will explain why. So, one of the examples that they gave of someone being an icon 5 years in is Mariah Carey during her Daydream era, and I would push back at that, and here's why. So her first album, four number one hits, huge album, 15 million copies sold worldwide. Second album didn't do as well as the first, but I believe it's still 8 million worldwide. Number one single in Emotions. MTV Unplugged, number one single. Music Box is her best-selling album to date. And Hero and Dream Lover were number one singles, so you have that, and yeah, just a huge, international album. Merry Christmas, it did decent for the time. All I Want for Christmas Is You would end up being the Christmas song, and every single year goes number one without fail, and it's like the most successful Christmas song of all time. And then by the time that we get to Daydream and the way that the era played out is spectacular, don't get me wrong. She had three number one singles, Fantasy, Once We Date, and then she also had Always Be My Baby. Now, Once We Date, number one for 16 weeks with Boys to Men, and it had the most weeks in number one for a single until Lil Nas X with Old Town Road in 2019. And yeah, it was the song of the decade until Billboard changed it, but I digress on that point. Fantasy was a huge song, 8 weeks at number one. And so she even did a remix to that with Old Dirty Bastard, and that's what literally popularized the pop rap collab that we see so often today, and what a game changer in general for the music industry at large and so many artists. And then Always Be My Baby was number one for 2 weeks. And yeah, 11 million copies sold worldwide as of the recording of this video, very impactful era, and we love Daydream. And with this era, I would definitely say that she turned into a superstar in terms of notoriety and just what she was able to do commercially on the charts, name recognition, awards, all of the things. She really got amped up to another level here. But I would still say she was an icon just because I feel like it was too early in her career at this point. After this, she had the Butterfly era. We know it, we love it. It wasn't as successful as Daydream, but great album nonetheless. Honey's a great single, and it was really important for her overall and like her imaging and stuff like that. She could finally be who she wanted to be. She could make more so of the music that she wanted to make, really go more into the R&B and hip hop that she's kind of been wanting to do, and so we love that for her. And then also she had the number ones era after this, and then that's whenever she would release her cover I Still Believe, and she would do the collaboration with Whitney Houston, and that would go number 15, I believe, on the Billboard Hot 100 chart, When You Believe, which was a huge moment at the time. I would say that Mariah became an icon at the Rainbow era, and let me explain. So basically, by the end of the 90s, she had racked up quite the accolades, the critical acclaim, the chart achievements on the Billboard Hot 100 chart and on the Billboard 200 with her albums, in pop culture at large, the influence, need I say more. And so by the end of the 90s and, basically into 2000, she had 15 number one hits. 15 number one hits in 10 years. Literally, who else? She had a number one hit every single year of the 90s. She was truly dominant in that respect. And so she also would end up getting the Billboard Artist of the Decade award for her chart achievements during this time. And then you can also start to see her influence on the new girls. So Britney Spears said that Mariah influenced her. Beyonce said that Vision of Love is the song that made her want to sing. And if you listen to Beyonce's music and, even Destiny's Child, you can definitely hear that. You also have Christina Aguilera. And if you listen to her debut album, you can definitely tell they were trying to model her a little bit after Mariah in a sense. Agree or disagree, it is what it is. And so I think whenever you have all those things together, I think that's why I would say she was an icon at that point. Because basically the reason why I would say you can't be an icon 5 years in is because I feel like people need to see what your influence is on the people that come after you in pop culture at large, on music. They really need to feel your presence whenever you're gone. And I feel like having 10 years at this point, people were really able to see that and retrospectively look back and appreciate what she had done and the feats that she accomplished. And she made quite a name for herself at that point. She was a superstar. She had the notoriety. She had the catalog to back it up. And you could see, how that would influence people to come. So that's why I would give it to her at the Rainbow era. I would consider her a legend in 2005 whenever she released the Emancipation of Mimi album. We know what happened in Glitter and Charm Bracelet, but she was able to come back. This album was the best-selling album of 2005. She got 3 Grammys for it. She got the critical acclaim. She had the commercial success with songs like We Belong Together, which was number one for 14 weeks, by the way. and that was the song of the decade. And then you also had Don't Forget About Us being a number one single as well. Not to mention her song Shake It Off, which she released, and she literally blocked herself from being number one with We Belong Together because that was such a smash hit at the time. And yeah, I feel like this just restored, her commercial status and just respect in the industry and stuff like that. People thought she was done after Glitter and Charm Bracelet, and this album was very important in her career. And I think people just were really able to appreciate what she had done, and I feel like it restored a lot for her. So I would say that this is a very important album, and this is whenever she became a legend. And just the entire way that the era was wrote and everything, kudos to that. Yeah, they definitely ate that, and one of the best comebacks of all time, I fear. They also were saying another argument for being an icon 5 years into your career is Britney Spears' first two albums, So Baby One More Time and Oops, I Did It Again. Those are great, moments, don't get me wrong. With her first album, she had Baby One More Time, one of the best debut singles and most influential ones of all time. You Drive Me Crazy, sometimes those were hits. Great album, very successful. Then with her second album, she had the title track, she had Stronger, she had Lucky as well, so we can't ignore that and what she was able to do. However, I feel like she didn't start really cooking until her self-titled era. You see the snake, you see this iconic performance. This is whenever she released songs like I'm a Slave for You. And yeah, this is just a great album overall. I'm Not a Girl, Not Yet a Woman. Cinderella is one of my favorite Britney songs. Bombastic Love, Anticipating. Like, this was definitely really a change for her image. It was something different. A lot of people took notice and a lot of people were inspired by it. I will say something that's really interesting with her is a couple years after she was out, you could definitely see labels starting to model after her with Jessica Simpson and Christina Aguilera, kind of trying to have people in that vein and push them. But, Jessica and Christina were like, no, I want to do my own thing. I don't want to be modeled after her. And they had success in their own right and everything. So I will add that part into the conversation because it's important. But like I said, the self-titled was such a change for her image and what she was able to do with the music that, that was definitely a turning point. And then you had the In the Zone era whenever she had Toxic, which is a huge hit for her, Me Against the Music with Madonna. And then you had her Blackout album, which is her magnum opus, and Give Me More and Piece Me were definitely iconic, and it has great album tracks like Heaven on Earth, Toy Soldier, Why Should I Be Sad is one of my favorite Britney songs, and then you also have like the Circus era as well. So in terms of calling Britney Spears an icon, I would probably give it to her during the Blackout era or the Circus era, because then you can really see her impact overall on pop culture, on the people that will come after her, and she had hit after hit after hit, very successful albums, very successful tours, so I feel comfortable around there giving her that icon distinction. Janet Jackson, I would probably say the Velvet Rope, you could call her an icon. Some people would say the Janet era, and I'm completely fine with that too. I mean, what Control and Rhythm Nation did is no small feat, and then the Janet era on top of that, it's like icing on the cake. So that's when I would say for Janet. I mean, just what she was able to do overall, also with this era, with Together Again. I also really love God Till It's Gone, and yeah, just what a successful era in its own right as well, and definitely her best album in my opinion. Basically, my overall thoughts on this is I feel like you can't be an icon 5 years in just because people can have one or two successful eras and then they're gone. The success is fleeting. Not everyone has longevity, not everyone has influence, and the only way that you can really see what they've done is you just look back at the time and like, oh, what happened to them? They fell off. They were a product of the time. It is what it is. Happens all the time. So I think having multiple successful eras, having that influence, having the chart achievements, being huge in pop culture, having the name notoriety, all these things really tie into being an icon. And I would say at least like 8 to 10 years of a sustained successful career and everything else that I mentioned, I would say earned you that icon distinction. I would say Katy Perry is an icon because of what she achieved, in her couple of eras, but unfortunately the longevity was not sustained. Also, quickly, the difference between an icon and a legend, in my opinion. An icon, like I said, 8 to 10 years of a long, sustained success and everything else. Legend, at least 15 years plus of longevity. I feel like if you weren't in the music industry at all, it would completely change. An icon, it can change a little bit, but legend, like the entire world would be a lot different if you weren't around, and music would be different at large. So you can be an icon, not a legend, in my opinion. And there's people that I really enjoy that I think are icons that might be a little bit controversial. Let me know your thoughts down below on this topic. It was an interesting conversation. But